the gesture.
Hello, and welcome to Angora Poets on this Sunday, March 6th, 2021, 1 year after 2020. Oh my God, I'm glad it passed. So we're going to begin tonight with 6 poets, and we will be recorded on our Rorschach YouTube channel. And as usual, the case, poets may join us after our beginning lineup. So we hope you all had a good week, and we hope you're enjoying some spring weather days wherever you're at. We're getting some in Paris as well. We have some very interesting news in that Jack Cooper's dog chewed up his wallet and his glasses, but he survived to tell the story. And Bill Strangmeyer is not with us at the moment because his net connection failed. How many millions has that happened to? There we go.
Nothing wrong with my glasses.
So, and I'm Mo Singer. I'm one of these poets, and we are, so welcome to Angora Poets World Cafe. We're sitting at a small table tonight so far, and I promise you it'll be quality service. So we're going to begin with our sister from down there in Ghana, Benedicta. Benedicta, you're on.
Thank you, Mo.
We're ready to hear you.
So with the, am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so with my first poem, it's something pertaining to what is happening with the unrest with Russia and Ukraine.
Right, something about Russia and Ukraine. Okay, let's hope it comes.
I'm taking
well,
from
Benedicta, listen up.
Mandela. Because
listen
when you
up,
look at
Benedicta.
his curation, Tessa FW,
Benedicta,
negotiation with his predecessor.
Here, let me mute Benedicta for a minute there. Can you hear me now?
I'm listening.
You're coming across as an echo chamber. You're breaking up.
Okay, then let me connect my headset. Is it better?
Yes, yes it is.
Is it better? Okay, so I'm starting again. I'm going to take some quotes from Nelson Mandela, and he had this negotiation with F.W. de Klerk, one of his predecessors, and it was about apartheid.
Well, you're breaking up. Yeah.
They were able to.
Not working at all, Benedicta. It's just, it's not working.
Peaceful conclusion.
It's not working.
And they were able to come to a peace. Is it good?
No.
Is it better now? You still can't hear me. You still can't hear me.
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start right ahead, and after that, I'll add what I have to say. So with the first poem, I read, real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the freedom of their people. A fundamental concern for others in our individual and community lives would go a long way in making the world the better place we so passionately dream of. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. I like friends who have independent minds because they tend to make you see problems from all angles. It always seems impossible until it's done. Many people in this country have paid the price before me, and many will pay the price after me. Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. Money won't create success, the freedom to make it well. It is in the character of growth that we should learn from both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. It's not our diversity which divides us. It's not our ethnicity or religion or culture that divides us. Since we have achieved our freedom, there can only be one division amongst us between those who cherish democracy and those who do not. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. A critical, independent, and investigative press is the lifeblood of any democracy. The press must be free from state interference. It must have the economic strength to stand up to blandishments of government officials. It must have sufficient independence from vested interest to be bold and inquiring without fear or favor. It must enjoy the protection of the Constitution so that it can protect our rights as citizens. So this was in respect to de Klerk's negotiation with Nelson Mandela, and they were able to come to an agreement and a peaceful transition. So that's the first poem.
Okay. Number 2, please.
So number 2 will be a monoku. And I read the resonance of the past. I take it again, the resonance of the past.
Wow. It's 5-word monoko.
Yep.
Okay. And 3's a charm, Benedicta. 3's a charm.
Okay, the third one, I take it. It's a haiku, and I read, eclipse in silence, the voice of the needy. I take it again.
Okay.
Eclipsed in silence, the voice of the needy.
Okay.
That will be all.
Well, that'll be, thank you. Are you still at work?
Yes, I'm still at work, and where I am, I think the network is not so stable. That was the reason why you weren't able to get me so well.
Yeah, the networking, yeah, you and so many other people. I had problems in the past as well. But you got on, you were very clear.
Mhm.
So thank you, Benedicta.
Okay, you're welcome. So the first
Oh,
one was just a curation, just to aid with peaceful negotiations between what is happening, the unrest with Putin and them. That was the reason why I wanted us to discuss about it, but it's fine.
well, yeah. Well, you had a very worthy point of view there. So I appreciated it. It's very well known this point of view is preferable to what's going on, if only people would follow it. Okay. Anyway, I want to thank you and introduce the next poet. Okay. So we're going to move over to Brooklyn, New York, and bring on the curator of Brownstone Poets, poet herself and curator, who likes to, likes to discuss, likes to verse a whole lot on jazz. So let's hear from Patricia Kerrigan. Okay, Patricia, you're on.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah. First they pull your computer's plug, snatch the pen from your hand, tear the letter you intend to write, burn your history to the ground. Then they post labels on you, place tape on your mouth, make sure you can't pass from one point to another. Until they want what you have, come knocking on your door, give you less than 3 minutes to disappear.
Whoa. Whoa, so there's some accurate reporting. Well, we got to get you on CNN. Okay. So did you have a personal experience this way yourself, or are you observing?
This was written when the time of the Palestinian thing was going on. Well, this was written, I think, how was it? Yeah, May 2021.
So was that about the treatment, which was that about treatment of Palestinians?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the thing that was going on at the time.
Yeah, which proves a whole lot of Jews around the world and in America are not ascribing to cowboys and Indians over there.
Mm.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, so are you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Please.
This was inspired by Sting, back in the
Okay.
day, Russians. A disease lives in a man, hides behind an Eastern cross, duct taped his people with sheep-skinned lies. His disease thrives on the past. A grown man plays colonizer games with no questions asked. His disease continues to attack where resilient sunflowers grow taller, stronger, faster than fire from bombs and guns, faster inside those who've had enough. Iron curtains have deep-rooted cracks, can't keep the truth or sunflowers out. Yes, Russians do love their children. Most say niet to Putin's sick game. I am Ukrainian. I am also Russian. Two nations planted my DNA tree. Resistance and biology have no borders, and from these hands, my sunflowers grow.
Wow. Okay. We'll make sure Vladimir Putin, if you're listening, we'll make sure he might be on board tonight trying to get in like Donald Trump tried to get in, but we had to kick Trump off, but Vladimir, if you're listening, you better listen up to what Patricia said. And wow, 3 is a charm, Patricia.
Okay, gonna be a short one, the haiku. Bombs cannot destroy the tiniest sunflower, blue Ukrainian sky. Bombs cannot destroy the tiniest sunflower, blue Ukrainian sky. I'm done.
Wow. Okay. We got your wow. All right. So thank you. Woo. Poets chime in early on the BS going on outside of our immediate domain. All right. Hi, Jeannie Nakano. You unmute, please.
Yeah. So this is from an anthology that I got published in. It's called Reimagine America. And it was,
That would be good.
yeah. So these are the poems that 2 of the poems I got in there. Today is the tomorrow we were looking for yesterday. Today is the tomorrow we were looking for yesterday. 1984 on roids. Behold a pale horse on oxy. This sure ain't Wonderland, Alice. Little orphan Annie lives in Tent City underneath the rail yard down by the tracks. Even white folk got problems. Poverty is colorblind. Only on Fox 5 is the economy booming as vampires suck blood for oil and use your children as cannon fodder. War is endless and profitable, and we've started wars on lies before. What makes it different this time? When were we never at war? 9/11 was an inside job. Why not have a day when the misleaders call for battle and everyone stays at home? Tell your children combat is deadly and perilous to your health. Paint protest signs on the walls of your consciousness. Remember, the military is an industrial complex, but it's not too complex to see. The chicken hawks only send our kids to fight their conquests. Do you think 1 million people rallying in Banneker City could snatch the yard birds out of the palace? Is there a law that would actually make them read the Constitution? This is the state of emergency poets told you about. I would continue with this catastrophe, but it's just too much to Twitter.
Whoa. Okay, too many deadly characters. I am going for Twitter. All right, number 2, please.
This is also in this anthology. It's called A Scream of Silence. There's a subtle scream of silence permeating the air from the pulpit of those that wave the stars and bars and scowl behind the holy babble that was never read, threatening to defy the Constitution, sending the military to fight those who come in peace, to mourn the death of civility, hoping to bury Jim Crow, planting flowers of peace and justice on the grave. But there are low-flying choppers hovering over the White House, sweating strange conversations in the bunker in the basement, and a new wall being built in Chocolate City, not Mexico. As the offsprings of the rainbow shine their light into the darkness, soldiers and policemen take a knee. But like my brothers and sisters in Missouri, show me, because the slave catchers evolved to killer cops. We defy curfews and pandemics with our hands in the air. Children of the rainbow surround the planets like a group hug. But don't forget, we've had these kumbaya moments before. Will it be different this time? So those are 2. This one, I dug back in the. You gonna say something?
No, I was gonna just say, let's hear it. 3's a charm. Yes.
Okay, this one is from I Didn't Come Here to Tap Dance. It's not a new poem, but a lot of them aren't new. Breaking up big rocks on the chain gang. Breaking rocks and serving my time. Breaking up big rocks on the chain gang. Cause I've been convicted of crime. We'll hold it now. Hold it steady right here while I hit it out. I reckon that ought to get it. Been working, Lord, working. You know, I still got so terrible on the go. Recent statistics reveal that 2 out of every 3 Black men between the ages of 20 and 29 are incarcerated on parole or on probation. This poem livicated to them is called I'm in a Recovery Program from Western Civilization. Once I got that social security number, I knew how Jews felt in Auschwitz. I wasn't even asked. Here they said, you're a citizen, pay us, vote for us, call it democracy or starve, punch the clock, all worth is by the hour, time is gold and he who defines wins. The unemployment lines grow faster than cancer on the prostate. The welfare line is shorter than no paycheck. Life gets uglier than a boil on a redneck's neck. The talk shows blame everything on the quote, economically disadvantaged, unquote. The mayor says, move if you can't find a job. Fascism rises like a silent fart, quiet but deadly. Negroes act like ostriches. Panhandling is illegal. City Hall fans the flames on the battlefield of race. But whatever happened to government for all the people? And did you vote to lose your job? Does repression really breed resistance, or is this just some mad fantasy? All I know is the fat cats got their hooks in me, and I sure wish 1 million Black men in atonement on the White House lawn had done much more than trample the grass, especially in Washington, the District of Columbia, the last plantation, an apartheid colony in this US of A, where the citizens have no vote. And by the way, South Africa, now that you can mark X on the ballot, can you spend it? Can you take it to the bank where the Krugerrand rules isn't worth much more than a US dollar frill? Did you get your fill and did you get your land back? Does democracy really have the keys to freedom? She's incarcerated by the criminal injustice system, a very criminal system of justice. She's sitting in a $125,000 cell on death row with life without parole. You know freedom. She's stamping out license plates and sewing blue jeans, breaking rocks on the Alabama chain gang for 3 cents a day, got a master's degree in economics and is doing life for being the truth. Damn, does it seem like slavery's alive again? What a brother know, there are no more doors for spooks to sit by.
Wow, okay. Woo. All right. Yeah, that was a charm, all right. Woo. Last week, I came across an article that talked about Jim Crow civil defense. And it said in the late 50s and 60s, when they said, let's do bomb shelters and duck and cover in case the Soviet Union would bomb us, nuclear, atomic bombs. I said, okay, now we will not have Black people sharing the same space as white people.
Okay.
So Black people will have to take cover. There will be segregated survival spacing. And this was signed off by the architects of the National Civil Defense, they called it, Civil Defense Act. And it was passed into law. So they were going to do, yeah.
I'm reading this great book. It's called We Will Shoot Back. Okay. It's about armed resistance in the Mississippi Freedom Movement during the 60s and whatever. Very, very revealing because everybody thinks it was so peaceful.
Yeah.
It wasn't peaceful. So, you
Okay.
know, I recommend it to people. It's good. It's a really good book. We Will Shoot Back.
And good luck with your ongoing recent book. I didn't come here to tap dance.
Thank you.
It's independently published, listeners. And we were discussing earlier, you know, to those of you listening in the YouTube audience, that people have come back to independent publishing again because with the technology and the mess with the publishing industry so often, not everybody, you know, not Poets Wear Prada, not other groups, that know that a lot of quality work from poets and musicians are being independently produced. No longer a stigma about that. End of that.
You know, there was probably, just to interject, it probably was about at least 25 years ago, the first person who recommended that as an honorable route was Jack Hirschman. Said,
Okay.
I've published many of my books myself over the years, and you know, he thought it was a very honorable route for poets to do. And of course, Walt Whitman did that.
7 editions were independent because
He also-
7 times they were never picked up by anybody.
Yeah. Whitman also reviewed his.
Yes, he did.
That's like Angora Poets having Donald Trump on, and then we pissed him off and he quit. I'm sorry we lost him.
He should have stuck around for the chat, because that's the good part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, in Ukraine,
Donald Trump really came to your group, Mo?
In our imagination.
That's a joke, Jeannie.
yeah, I mean they're doing it in Ukraine too. They're segregating buses and taking people off the buses.
Yeah. Yeah, that news came out. Right, Jack. The details I saw they got videoed on this. Masses of people trying to board the train in Kiev to get out of Kiev.
Right.
And among them were Africans,
Right.
most of whom are students in the Ukraine, young adult students. And so the Ukrainian police would not let them board the train. And the reasoning was, we have a policy, Ukrainians first. And they said, so the videos show the two sides arguing, and very heated arguing, and the train leaving with the African residents, the African people, stuck in Kiev. And then they said, even if we let you on, it won't work, because this train is destined for refugees to go to Poland, which is nearby. And Poland said, we will not accept Black refugees, only Ukrainian refugees. And there are our good friends in NATO and our good friends, they hate the Russians too. This shit's crazy. But this is true, and it's not being denied. Even the mainstream US media had to come out and do a mild criticism on that. It was mild. If Putin would have done it. it'd have been more evidence of what they say he's Hitler, but their side did it, so they had to cover it, but very mildly. Isn't that weird, man? Jim Crow in American nuclear bomb shelters in the 60s, and this stuff here in Ukraine, it's like,
All future Holocausts will be segregated. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying that the human condition, take me somewhere where people aren't acting like, homicidal and suicidal neighbors, somewhere in this world. Okay, good enough. Thank you. Now we're going to go. To Los Angeles. Let's go to the West Coast here and bring on Jeannie. Hello, Jeannie.
I don't have anything political, and I feel kind of bad about it, but
Please don't feel bad. We know your heart is in the right place, as you described your family's experience with Japanese American incarceration. Okay, our viewers need to know that. Please don't apologize for that.
Okay, well, let me tell you, I'm in a group of poetry, and we tried to write something, and nobody really wanted to write anything. And we came up with this it was supposed to be a trio poem. And I mean, it was supposed to be a group poem, but only 3 of us contributed. So I'll read it to you, but I really wanted to hear Patricia's poem, and I was just coming in and didn't get to hear it. So this is our little 3-way poem out of the 12 people, and no one else contributed. So it ended like this. It's called Not Again. The first one is by Amelia from Australia. War in Europe, Ukrainians here lament and demonstrate. On our TVs, this feeling of helplessness. And then mine was, they're all Tonkas. So brave, the women strap guns to their breasts. The cruelty of dictators must not dictate. And the ending was, no borders at the World Assembly, hearts of nations beating together, the drums of peace. I hope I didn't
Very
hear
nice.
the drums.
No, very nice.
And the second one that I'm reading is called Reflections. It's Haibun, ordered by, pardon me?
What is
Okay.
that?
It has haiku interspersed in it at the beginning, at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it Reflections.
No, but I'm interested in the label. You call it Haibu, did you say?
Haibun, Haibun.
And is that a Japanese invention?
Yes, Basho did it when he was traveling the northern part of Japan. He would write a description of what he saw and intersperse it with haiku.
Okay. Well,
And
let's hear it, please.
Okay, it's Reflections. 1955. Blondes have more fun. Lady Claro. At a red light, she stops her car in front of mine, raises her arms and runs her fingers through soft waves of blonde hair. Her slow, steady pull excites me as each strand beams golden in the early morning light. Next light, I turn the rear view mirror inwards and watch me pull my fingers through thick, straight, black hair. No golden rays, just traffic lights blinking from above. Shirley Temple and Bojangles, where do I fit in? That's the end of that one.
Whoa, okay. Wow. And you began by saying you apologize for not having a quote political poem. I think you underestimated what you've just given us.
Oh, thank you.
I think yes. Okay, and anyway, just for our viewers to know, all hell could be breaking loose in somebody's war zone, and if somebody wishes to poem on a completely unassociated topic, that's fine. It's everybody's call. And so, Jeannie, three's a charm.
All right. So here's a new form I'm working on. It's called Charita. It's completely new to me. And
Well,
it's,
wait, okay, here we go again. What is Charita?
well, it was developed by this woman named Ai Lee, and she came from a history of storytellers. So she liked Tonka in many forms, and she took this form and gave it 6 lines and each little poem has to tell a story. Each little
Okay.
6 lines. So here are my first.
And is this Japanese also in origin, Charita?
You know, it isn't. She was inspired by it, but it is not Japanese.
Okay.
And I kind of like it. So I'm playing with it.
Does any group take credit for it? I'm just curious. It's little history.
Just her and it was like in the 1954, or I can't remember. I got to get this statistic on it. But there's a group of us that are attempting to write this form.
All right.
And so I'm going to read you just the first one, and then, well, I'll just read you. This is the first one that I got published by the journal, and it's 6 lines. Within a circle of deer, Buddha gives his first sermon. The deer's ears twitch. Enlightenment. So that she liked it, and then it inspired me to write more. So here's the ones that I wrote yesterday. They're very short. He walks through my pain. Out the door. Who will hold my hand while I'm dying? A fight between us. Above, old crows listen and repeat. A lion leapt off the training stool. My whip, my screams did not stop him until he tasted my tears. And that's it.
Wow. Until he tasted your tears. Great. Bravo, Jeannie. Thank you very much. Good to have you on board again. We missed you for a little while there.
Well, your tooth, right? You had a tooth pulled?
Oh, me too. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. Okay, so let's see. The next one up would be Jack Cooper. So let's have Mr. Jack. We'll go to Paris now and have Jack Cooper come on board. Hello, Jack. You're on.
Hello, Mo. Hello, everyone. Could point out that my poems are always on disassociated topics.
Yeah, a method from every poet is welcome.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. This is called 52 Pickup. And I actually wrote it shortly after I arrived in France. And I was living in a renovated stable in the South, and I had recently come from Connecticut, where I'd been living, and I'd had a girlfriend who had I don't know how to describe it. I suppose a certain Jones that led me to spend a lot of time in parts of Hartford, where I became very familiar with the whole street corner thing. So this is called 52 Pickup, and it came from observing magpies,
Wow.
which I realized that magpies had a lot in common with a lot of the guys that I'd seen on corners and in the more objectionable parts of Hartford. 52 pickup. Magpies switch from branch to branch, fending long tails like knives. Their flaunted feathers paused, cross black and white, declare the race war they decoy, cursed with little further choice. Domineer as gangsters do on corners. The one tops most, be it bitch or tree or offending brother, lets all who fear know he, always he, calls the shots around here. Until he's next to follow the line of victims in their graves. Every deck of cards contains the same number, regardless which might appear to be displayed. The deal will change, not so fast the draw. The premier player proves the last to show. It comes to this every time. They all fall down.
They all fall down. Tell me, I'm familiar with the street corner mentality, lifestyles you talked about.
Yeah.
Are magpies, why do they, you said magpies remind you of street corner. I would ask you, why do street corner people remind you of magpies?
Well, because it's all about, you know, commanding a bit of turf, you know, and
So magpies are, it's
well,
characteristic.
that's what they're all about. I mean, they're incredibly aggressive, and they
Okay.
basically drive all the other, you know, all the other birds away, and so that they get to pick up whatever is available.
With such a sweet name, I would have never guessed they were so ruthless.
Oh yeah, no, I think they're well known. I mean, they're even. I mean, Blue Jays have a similar reputation.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was fascinating because they would, you know, they each would stake out a different part of the backyard. You know.
Oh man. So
Yeah.
Crips and Blood and the Gambino gang. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
the West Side Patties. All right. What's next there, Jack?
Patty.
Huh?
So yeah. So the other thing is I'm putting together at long last my my book about my time in Brooklyn, which is called Slouching Toward Bushwick.
Hmm. Okay.
And so I thought, I'm trying to get it here now. Hold on. I may have to look elsewhere. Oh, wait, that's it. All right. So this is called, so I've been, you know, spending a lot of time looking in the mirror these days. You know, it's been, you know,
Hmm.
evaluating this and you know, checking my profile, that.
Okay.
This is called isotrope. Isotrope. I wanted to call it isodope, but you know, I figured I couldn't pull that off. So this is called isotrope. I feel it somewhere down there. The best part of myself gleam far below as a well when shone, ignited in the dark, seem bone aglow. A fury orgasmic, isolated, although little changed, everything still. Doubt, invidious, withdrawn, vaunted beliefs dispelled, impugned, refuted, forgiven. Icon, even altered state, beyond which futures drift, perceived through regard of awe from their beginning. Past eclipsed, subtended as they dawn, fruit turned being to touch, an intaglioed relief. Golden city lost, self-evident Shangri-La, dreams since shield, shades of meaning, words restore like souls, an insight out loveliness, mirrory similarity reflects, luminous difference sets beside, opacity seeds. Finally, a loud release distinguishes what in that I am.
Ooh. Your reflection in the mirror became quite articulate.
Oh, I think
Does the mirror talk back?
it tries to hold its tongue.
I mean, on the serious note, do you get into keeper self-examination looking into a mirror? Because I have done that in depression. So I'm just asking, you said you've been looking in a lot of mirrors lately.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm actually speaking metaphorically. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to collect poems that I wrote during this period that I lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And so I'm, looking through them, and they were all written in the past. And so I'm revisiting them, and I mean, this one in particular, I tore to pieces and, spent two dog walks in a row, going through it in my head. And then finally I came back and I actually started to put the pieces back in a different way. And then I just closed it, didn't save the changes, and reread the poem and thought I liked just the way it was.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the book is called again?
Slouching Toward Bushwick.
Okay. Noted. Okay, so what's number 3?
Yeah. Okay, another
Charm
one.
us. We lost your volume. We lost your volume.
Unmute, Jack, and start over.
Did you just lose it now?
Where you're back on.
Okay, good. All right.
Start taking from the top.
Take what from the top?
Third poem that you're about to
Oh,
read.
good. Yeah, no, I haven't read it yet.
Good, good.
And I have to be careful because my glasses keep falling off my face. This is called Eventuality. Yes, we will get over it. We can, we do, of course, shall recover. We have to. Death narrows the choice. Still, an avenue persists, some thoroughfare to which nobody may become accustomed. No one makes sense, ends in nothing, meets nowhere. The coup of time taken, not going over, never. We pave it, you did. And like roads, the Romans built straight through the heart, in this case. Endure so long as soul banishes feeling, disdains to know its length.
Okay. Wow. All right.
I mean, a fair number of them will deal with my the end of reflections on my previous life, which ended
In Brooklyn.
ended in divorce. The end of my marriage, right?
Okay.
My
Wow.
20-year marriage. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, good. All the best for getting it on the bookshelves
Yeah, thank you.
and what has to go along,
Yeah.
along the way. All right, great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for listening.
Yes. And now we're going to cross the continent. Well, wait a minute. We're not, Jack's not in New York. He's in Paris. We're going to go back to the West Coast, USA, to San Francisco, California, and bring on our poet, we like to call affectionately Dharma Dave. You're on, man.
Okay. So I had just a blast last Tuesday reading with the 1428 Poets group up on Haight Street. And I'm going to read some of the poems I read at that event.
Nice.
So the first one, this is still being tweaked somewhat, I guess. It's about one of our great eccentrics in San Francisco, the guy who shows up with the surrealistic sign at any kind of protest or march or whatever for 20 plus years now. And this is adapted from a Bob Dylan lyric, and it's called Chew the Protester, the Mighty Frank Chew. Everybody's building big movements and votes. Some are building social networks. Others are jotting down notes. Impeached populations in despair, every girl and boy. But when Chew the Protester gets here, everybody's going to jump for joy. Come all without, come all through, you'll not see nothing like the mighty Chew. I like to do like the rest of you. I like my honey sweet. But invaders from 12 galaxies, that ain't my cup of meat. Everybody's 'neath the trees, feeding pigeons on a limb. But when Chew the Protester gets here, all the pigeons are going to run to him. Come all now, come all, you too. You'll not see nothing like the mighty Chew. A cat's meow, a cow's moo. I can recite burrito justice to all. Just tell me where it hurts you, honey, and I'll tell you which acrotocracies to call. Nobody here can get any sleep, guiltied to a zegnatronic rocket society. It's on everyone's nose. But when Chew the Protester gets here, everybody's gonna want a dose. Come all without, come on all through. You'll not see nothing like the mighty Chew. Come all without, come on, you too. You'll not see nothing like the mighty Chew. And so the next number 2.
Is the mighty Chew still alive and thriving?
I saw him, he's, I don't know about thriving. I saw him on the bus in Chinatown about late December. I was hoping Santa Claus would bring him a new suit because he's much more effective when he's got a decent suit on, rather than he was looking rather ragged. But he's still alive. He survived the pandemic, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
True
right.
character. You can look him up. There's an article about him in Wikipedia.
Yeah, every city, every town needs at least one person like that. While they
Yes.
may seem boring and predictable over time, without somebody trying to stir up something.
We've had, of course, a lot of them around here in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and I can think of a string of them. And it goes all the way back, of course, to Emperor Norton and around then. Second poem. And here is, this could happen on Haight Street or other streets anytime in the last 50 years, probably, or more. This is called Blank Doses. I have lived in the hate for 23 years. The buds that I speak of will get you high. Give me your money now. I will let you hold this sheet. Don't you dare run off with it. I will be back in 10 minutes. An hour later, I have had my shot of heroin, speed, cocaine. You have a sheet of blank doses and lots of food for thought.
Okay. All right. Did you partake in that degradation or
What's
just
that?
observe?
Did I get ripped off in a drug deal?
Yeah, or just
Ever in my
observe?
life?
All right.
Not very often.
I never got arrested for drugs, which in my case would be weed, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't get arrested. Nobody, I don't think in that situation got arrested.
Yeah, there's so many variations of that, you know, there's the bank one, where the guy,
Yeah.
you know, asks you to hold his money.
You're right. Yeah.
Here,
It's
I'll
just
fold it.
right. It's basically, it's a very basic scam that now
Yeah.
comes in via your, you know, unsolicited
and the guy
messages on your
actually
cell phone.
The money in a newspaper, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
you maybe I don't know, it never happened to me, but I've heard.
Well, we just all need to be wise, streetwise, right? But sometimes you got to learn a lesson, I guess. So
Yeah, that's how you get wise.
exactly.
Yeah.
Either that or you're a 52 pickup guy, right? Whatever. You get into a bad situation. This is my most recent, for the third piece here. This is my most recent poem, and I had a lot of fun with this. So I hope you'll enjoy it. It's fairly robust. This is called W.C. Fields Forever. Picture yourself on a stage in a theater with swells in the orchestra and gods in the clouds. Somebody cues you, you answer on time. A Flo Ziegfeld girl with Bessie Poole eyes. Let me take you down to the old vaudeville town because I'm juggling around with W.C. Fields. I'm dialing for dollars on the weekday matinee, on old Broadway with plenty to get buzzed about. W.C. Fields forever. A rich man be nothing but a poor man with money. And we are all going out to California to live. You take baby Leroy and I'll take Tommy Bupp. See how they mash like road hogs from a crash. See those wrens, Jan Dugan, Kathleen Howard, old Squidulum and nattering wife will make them run. Here's your pie, you egregious tartuffle. I'm driving. A flask full of breakfast and a bucket full of beer. Floodlights kaleidoscope high over your head. Memory expert seeks starlet with sun in her eyes. Must be great friends with Hukalaka Mishabab. Maybe Carlota Monti for years on occasion. Aha, Egbert Souzet, accent grave over the E. Oh, fussy Franklin Pangborn meets loutish Grady Sutton. No trouble with the union at the Black Pussy Cafe. The great McGonagall sitting in the green room. Mae West in mind, waiting for Peggy Joyce to come. If this be Wuhan, China, where can Kansas City be? Kansas City, Kansas? Kansas City, Missouri. Elwood, Brentwood, and Mortimer Snerd. They baffle science. Bill Wolf, you nosy Parker, you let my flask run dry. Oh, drat, how do you do, sir? Godfrey, Daniel, mother of pearl, many Manhattans and martinis. Ah, Beelzebub, cataract, and of indigo. This a game of chance? Not the way I play it. Sheriff Pretty Willie sitting with subpoenas by the fire. Funny film producers, Max Sennett, William LeBaron. See how they fight like Hattie Hughes in the night. See all the fun to the Grampian Hills they run, all the way to Tammany Young. Shades of Bacchus. Bow dipping from a blind dog's eye. California goddess, pornographic priestess. Woke, you've been a red hot girl, you let your scanty panties down. Groucho, Harpo, Chico, Zeppo, climbing up the Hollywood sign. Little Charlie Chaplin kissing Una O'Neill. Wow, you should have seen them kicking Edgar Kennedy. Let me show you how Stan and Ollie fool around, because we're going to see W.C. Fields. Sergeant Pepper has nothing to say, but it's okay. The big top will now be going on, suckers and chumps, for not the good humor man, an honest man, W.C. Fields forever. Always know, sometimes think of Shemp Howard, a dash of Rover and an appreciative snake. What skullduggery grabbed the scallywag's fetlock? The snake stuck his tail outside of the wickiup and deftly rattled for a constable or a singing killer. But you never know. Charlie McCarthy, when it's a dream. Hard to tell where Hollywood ends and the DTs begin. That said, I think I'll have a drink. The gondola taxis arrive at a Venice canal, waiting to take Mr. Wilkins Macabre away. Margaret Hamilton rides a broomstick so high. Margaret Dumont still hasn't a clue. Come up and see me sometime, my little chickadee. Let me take you downtown and all around, because I'm going to be W.C. Fields. Everything surreal and nothing too weird about it. I am the great man. I'd like to see Paris before I die. Philadelphia will do. I'd rather have 2 girls at 21 each than 1 girl at 42. W.C. Fields forever. Don't you let that deal go down. W.C. Fields forever. Still looking for loopholes. W.C. Fields forever. Say Fanny.
Full of Bacchus, that poem, full of Bacchus, as you say.
Shades of Bacchus.
Okay, well then, shades of Bacchus. More precisely from you, a flask full of breakfast and a bucket of beer. I knew some stuff was going to follow on that. Now tell us, W.C. Fields, what is it? Did his tombstone something? Is it true, the rumor, his tombstone says something about never Philadelphia or?
Well, it's I don't think it's on his tombstone, but that's the legend. But there was apparently there was a article in Vanity Fair way back, like in the 30s or way back when, where they asked famous people for their epitaph. And the one Field sent them was, "I would rather be living in Philadelphia
Yeah, I'd rather be in Philadelphia.
than be dead."
Oh, okay, all right.
Which
Good
was,
enough.
as it was explained to me, that was the bottom of the vaudeville circuit.
But the line, yeah, he started out, of course, as a juggler and a vaudevillian. And the line there, that's actually directly out of from My Little Chickadee. They're about to hang him because they think he's the masked bandit. He's not actually. But they say, "You have any last words?" And he says, "I'd like to see Paris before I die. Philadelphia will do."
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. WC.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned Mae West, and she still cracks me up looking at those
Yeah.
old black and white videos of Mae West.
Yeah.
Well, I just,
Okay.
I figure like people and these guys, they all, most of them, I mean, they lived before I was even born, and yet they've made me laugh all my life. So that is accomplishment in my book.
It is. And I'm glad there's a pushback against wokeness, because I could imagine Mae West and W.C. Fields being totally canceled in many quarters.
Yeah, I have a particularly great memory of taking my son and a friend of his to see W.C. Fields. And they were, this guy's cracking me up.
Yeah. Mine I took to see the Marx Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, David. And
You're welcome. Thank you for listening.
And I'm the last one in this round, and I have 3 poems, and I'm reacting to a lot of things. Like, once again, the more I know, the more I don't know. And it's humorous as time goes on, because it no longer shocks me how I've had to reform opinions and values on a personal level. As was said earlier, I got wisdom from failure, and I've been reviewing that again. What it came with COVID was so much time to sit alone. So I want to say that about what I don't know, and that also goes for politics, because when I was a war correspondent in the 80s and 90s, I thought the good guys were eventually going to reorder the world. But then in the late 60s, I thought the boomers were going to reorder the world. And then we realized that wasn't going to happen in either one of those periods. So that went along with my misjudgment of things to do logically, how to make money, other things, relationships. Okay, so having said that, this is why I want it. This poem, I thought, encapsulates what's going on around me, given all kinds of news. It's war and economy and racial and all the internet problems. And so it's called Numbers Game. One curious look, 2 eyes in orbit, 3 crooked teeth, 4 sutured scars, 5-fold brow, 6 sins repeated, 7 legs deep, 8 days late again, 9 times dead, 1,000 laughs, 11 loves gone, 12 o'clock struck, 13 state of mind, 14 light years, 15 unpaid, 16 miles uphill, 17 sunrise, 18 kilos of coffee, 19 stars over Paris, 20 times overdue, 21 gray hairs, 22 stained glass windows, 23 broken promises, 24 lies, 25 deities, 26 million starving, 27 bending rolls, 28 penny whistles, 29 fallen idols 30 years ago, 31 primordial screams, 32-degree freeze, 33 tears, 34 mountains to climb, 35 follies repeated, 36 ounces of wet brain back then, 37,000 cigarettes, 38 cracks in my tongue, 39 women, 40 voice gospel choir, 41 depression Sundays, 42 free protons, 43 full moons, 44 closed doors, 45 angles, 46 rehearsals, 47 lost memories, 48 tons of shit, 49 versions corrupted, 50 times look in mirror. That would be that poem there. And now the next one that goes on with existential mandarins is called Dum Dum. Wave, water, wind, sand, desert, once a sea, fire, flame, ash, dust, fallen leaf, once a flower, day, night, dark, light, blind, sight, smart, dumb, 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 ever after.
Nice,
Okay,
nice.
and now I'm going to read a poem that speaks to the insanity of anyone, anywhere risking nuclear war. And this poem was written for a visiting Soviet Union delegation that came to my city, and this recorded singer was on stage, and the mayor of our city was on stage, and I was pulled out as the representative poet. So I wrote about that during what we call glasnost, very historical. And it's called Возможно, which simply means possible, or in a context, it is possible. And it goes like this: Возможно. Because so many perished in ships en route to Ellis Island, because many perish now on the plain before the Rio Grande, because so many perished at Stalingrad, at Babi Yar, because so many perished in the ghostly gulags, because so many perished in the Middle Passage, because the stench of burnt flesh in pools of cold blood Mississippi. Возможно. Peace. Because bread tastes no different to the hungry, wheat no preference from which field it cleans, milk is white, honey brown, rain is crystal clear. Because the golden sun passing through azure sky halts for no checkpoints, barricades, no man's borders. Возможно. Because bullets never sing patriotic anthems as they tunnel the flesh of a human being. Because dead men cease to curse each other, the worms don't distinguish the winners from the losers. Возможно. Because the harbingers of death would vanish our minds, their toxic tongues, brains insane, hearts of cold, dark space, ignorance, cooking up fear and hate, varnished upon a nuclear nose cone, destined to kill you so suddenly, you will not have time to hear me cry as I die a megaton second after. Have you and I ever been asked? Возможно. Because I know your children dream as my children dream, under the same starry sky. And darkness is a time for rest, not fear of the unknown dawn. Because I want to die old in the field, she in the garden, he on the sunny side of the porch. Because life like a river rushes forward when free to run its natural course until the day it gracefully surrenders to the sea. Возможно. Peace. Okay. Okay. Thank you for your response to that. And thank you. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. Возможно. Peace. Say it in Ukrainian, say it in Russian, say it in the Bronx, say it in Beverly Hills. Okay, great. So that was the first round, and let's take a few-minute break and come on back in the same order, minus Benedicta. I don't see her on screen, but we could come back in a quick minute and do
Okay.
round two.
Yeah, can I read that poem? I mean, I know I'm in the kitchen. Jean didn't hear the second poem I read, so,
Certainly you can.
but let me go get it.
A good,
Can she hear you? Okay.
Dry my hands, some cooking.
good.
Russians inspired by Sting. A disease lives in a man, hides behind an Eastern cross, duct taped his people with sheepskinned lies. His disease thrives on the past. A grown man plays colonizer games with no questions asked. His disease continues to attack where resilient sunflowers grow taller, stronger, faster than fire from bombs and guns, faster inside those who've had enough. Iron curtains have deep-rooted cracks, can't keep the truth or sunflowers out. Yes, Russians do love their children. Most say niet to Putin's sick game. I am Ukrainian. I am also Russian. Two nations planted my DNA tree. Resistance and biology have no borders. And from these hands, my sunflowers grow.
Long live your sunflowers. All
Yeah,
right,
and I
Patricia.
love the haiku too about the sunflowers and the sun and the blue of the sky.
Yeah, it's a perfect haiku, 575.
Yeah,
Doesn't always
Great.
come out. Thank you.
okay. And
Thank you.
I wrote
You know, it's-
two
it's
essays.
funny.
Go ahead,
My-
Judy.
Well, I went to temple right before I came here, and my husband said, I have a question. He said, I want to assassinate Putin. What do you do about these feelings? And
You make sure you don't say them in Russia.
yeah. So the Kusala, my monk, well, the priest, he's my friend because I've known him way before I was a monk. And he said, well, you know, we think of doing things fast, you know, just kill it. Like if we see a cockroach running across, we could either pick it up, throw it out the room, but we'll kill it. And then I guess he was trying to explain to my husband that the fast route wouldn't, I'm not sure what he's trying to explain. Do you get it?
Yeah. Now, I wrote two essays this week on the war and had a very interesting experience, which is to say, I condemned Putin and then discussed what's being omitted about the president of Ukraine and the pro-fascist, self-identified fascist forces. And the responses I got back were what they call, what one critic said, this is a binary world, Mo. They either have to choose Russia or Ukraine, and you put out criticism of both sides. And that's why responders attacked you for daring to say anything other than just damning Russia. I said, okay. And one guy got so angry that people didn't respond to his outrage against what I wrote, that he wrote again, I'm continuing my thread. And attacked me personally, like you hear about, you know, why I don't go on Twitter and stuff. Said that I was an adolescent out of doing kitchen sink analysis as an adolescent would when he doesn't know how to do his mother's dishes. And I just said this, I just sucked that up. I just said, okay, brother. My head just went, live long and prosper. And the overall thing was this, what I said, pointing criticism, which is documented on both sides, the Americans in particular, what I did say was, this mirrors Iraq. When W. Bush went against Saddam Hussein, we've got pro-fascist people in Ukraine calling the shots against a totalitarian dictator in Moscow. This is like, two losers going at who, what would you do? Wait till you see who is the winner, watch what you pray for on either side. And the Americans refused to omitted addressing that. Only Europeans said, thank you for painting the broader picture. No Americans, they were just outraged and didn't say anything about, does this reflect what we did in Iraq? We had a war and it was two very unpopular leaders, and both were, documented as being very, very undesirable people, W. Bush and Saddam Hussein. And only the Europeans commented on that. The Americans went, any dead Ukrainian is worth the war against Russia. Well, I didn't say it wasn't. I just said both sides. Anyway, so that was very interesting for me. And again, somebody said, if you forgetting you're dealing with a very bipolar culture in America, which is to say they're either going to like you without inspecting what you say, or they're going to dislike you without inspecting what you say. They're just going to rush to one side or another. And I said, okay, right. So that was my experience, and like Patricia said, I have ex-family that I'm very close with. They're Russians, and they live in Moscow, St. Petersburg, New York, and Paris, and they're split over this themselves. They have split feelings over this war themselves. So it hit home in that sense. But we're not hating on one another. We're just arguing and counter-arguing about certain positions without any animosity. So that's my story. And good poem, Patricia. The Iron Curtain has cracks in it. Yes, it sure did. It all fall down. Okay, so now we're going to go to Angora. Angora, you're on. How are you? You're back.
Good. I'm good. I'm back here. So this poem is from a chapbook that I wrote around 1995. The chapbook was called The Blunt Chronicles, Pre-Millennium Tales.
Mm-hmm.
I went to this concert, a saxophonist, and it was supposed to be a jazz concert, but he turned it into a classical thing. And I was so out of it, I wrote this poem, and it's called A Trilogy in Criticism of European Classical Music and Jazz Pseudo-Imitations. 1, ghosts of the past permeate the air. The stench of no rhythm lulls a real nigga to sleep. Remnants of dead white men who sold their soul to the soulless. Bland, no spice like cream of wheat. Give me some live music, alive and growing, funky and vibrant, a melody that I can hum or screech in saxophone. I'll even take a doo-wop. This dead shit leaves me dead. Funk me hard like good sax. Real rhythm makes you pat your feet, sends a chill up your spine like James say, yeah, hit me. It's gotta be funky for me. 2, imitations of high art in the name of jazz, treason to the African who sold his rhythm for 20 pieces of silver to make white folk comfortable. Real jazz makes you sweat, leaves you something real like cornbread and collards. Having jazz funded by the National Endowment takes away the flavor. I like my funk uncut. Let that dead shit rest in peace. Give me a funky bass and a smiling face. I'll leave sleep in the bedroom. I want to feel alive. Lead me to the boogie. My soul needs the huckabuck. Even my minstrel face can't hide the pain, pain, pain. Yeah, that's that one.
Okay. All right, that begs the question. Here we go. Begs the question, Angoma. Then do you not appreciate Wynton Marsalis mixing
No.
his classical background with
Some of
jazz?
it, but not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about learning that Duke Ellington and the Russian pianist collaborated in the 20s and 30s and began to use each other's work in their new works? Do you know that Duke Ellington? Oh, somebody help me out with his name. The Russian pianist.
Vladimir? Oh, no.
No, his name was not better. No. Okay, I'll get it when it's too late. But yeah, this
was
Russian
so
pianist
tall.
of, huh?
He was real tall, right?
I don't.
Who?
Rachmaninoff,
Okay.
Sergei
Thank you.
Rachmaninoff,
Thank you.
and Duke Ellington corresponded, listened to each other's work, and Ellington said, "I wish to incorporate some of the elements of your compositions, we call misnomer classical compositions." So that happened, and then I think you're right. A lot of people just thought, I think both happened. You know, if we put some violin in this and some symphonic instruments, we'll sound smart
Yeah.
rather than, like you say, richly jazz.
He had made a whole orchestra, and that wasn't what I was expecting. That was the biggest thing. Wasn't that the music wasn't good or anything like that. It was just that's what I wasn't expecting that, and I was bored.
Yeah, I get you. No, I got you what you were saying. And if it's good, if you're gonna play any music, make it good. And
In fact, I wrote the poem in the concert while I was sitting in the concert.
yeah, it's one way to work it out. Cool,
Yeah.
man.
So this last poem,
Chamber music does that for me. When they play chamber music, I just like nod off. I'll never. Everybody looks so smart, and if you cough more than once, you're being disruptive, and nobody claps. And Jesus, chamber music just put me right. I mean, that was like bad volume. Okay.
That's why they call it chamber music. They put
I
you in the
guess so.
chamber.
Well, there's Laura Gravel. All right. Hello, Laura.
So do I get a second poem?
You certainly do. I was just saying hello to Laura. Well, good to see you, Laura.
Cool. This also comes from the Blunt Chronicle. I wrote this poem when I was like going through a divorce. It's called I Don't Give a Damn That You're Broke, so don't let money ruin a good thing. True love surpasses economics, cannot be measured by dead presidents, cannot be destroyed by zero bank accounts, cannot be affected by colossal debt. I need true love, everlasting kisses, a touch that lasts forever, continuous hugging. I know love don't make turds, but I'm not looking for shit. I want a smile that warms me up, lights my fire, creates desire, takes me higher. I don't want to bust the bank, draw 22 in a game of blackjack, or just plain crap out on a roll of the dice. I need true love, not a chance encounter. I mean, I'll listen to your complaints, fears, and worries. I just don't want an equation that equals to it's over. I need love with faith in a future, overcoming hardship, good fucking in the face of adversity. I need you, but you must remember good loving won't pay the bills. If they cut off your phone, it won't disconnect my love. I'll write you a poem, pound my drums, and beat on my chest. I'll hijack a ride, low crawl through rice paddies, lay 500 miles of caramel wire just to hear you pee. I'm not after your money. I didn't think you had any when I met you. Don't care that you don't have one now. I just want your love for eternity. If you don't neglect me for your troubles, I'll always be around for you. If you let me know you need me, don't turn your back on me. Tell me that it's so good for you. I'll stay till the very end. But I won't listen if you blame the harshness of life in this society on me. Don't let the burden of a cash backlash dry up your juice, make you cold as ice. Forget to kiss me goodnight. I can't stand being invisible. I just might really disappear.
Okay. Terms of endearment. Okay, from Angora. All right, the terms of endearment. Okay, good, man.
Thank you. Hold on.
Sure. Okay. All right, so we've heard from Angoma now, and now we're going to move on to Jeannie Nakano.
Oh, okay. I'll just read. Oh, let me sit down. You can't see me. You know, I just got a notice that I'm going to be featured in a spoken world event. What does it say? Spoken Word Live, Saturday, March 12th in Zoom. And I'm going to be featured with Mariko Kitakubo and myself. We're both, anyway, I'm supposed to be untraditional, I guess, and she's traditional because she has a kimono on. So I thought of reading this one. Okay, here it goes. Identity. I wanted to be golden, wear a curly blonde crown of Shirley Temple locks. Into my teens, I streamed, Oye, orale pues. I poemed my story, right on, right on. Blackness became my call. I danced the moves and wore the hats and sang off key. Now at 74, a hybrid, a tribrid, a unitard, something in between, a floating world. I was, will be, I am.
Okay. All right. That's a good poem.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure about it because I have another one that's similar to it called Orale Pues. And I don't know if I'm repeating myself. Can I read it and you could give me your opinion?
Why don't you read it, please?
Okay. Born in East LA Barrios, I live in a world of dualities. In my tight skirt and sweater, I can cha-cha and hully-gully down, but I don't know who I am. I peroxide my red hair, my hair red. Rat it high, pierce my ears with the Catholic cross. Orale pues, Sanse Buddha head becomes a chola. My homeroom teacher sends me to the back of the room. My hair is too high to see over. She calls me a disgrace. Oye, it's better to nap in the back. My black eyeliner and gray jade green shadow. I look older now, but time's going too slow. I'm Maria of West Side Story. In my purple skirt, I twirl with my amateur grace, round and round, and then again. Suddenly, a balance. That's it for me. Dance sets me free. Forget those guys, those blackened eyes. You can catch me in the rye. While my legs grow strong, my spine becomes a willow. Time moves in rhythm and everything makes sense. The world becomes a dance. So keep on is all I say. You call me a show-off, but I don't care because I feel good. And don't you wish you had my legs? Orale pues, right on, right on, right on. That's
Okay.
the
Well,
piece.
I very much like your poem, so there's my opinion, easy to express. Anybody else wish to comment on?
Those poems are both stand on their own, each of them.
I liked it.
Okay, I just wondered if they're too similar and I only have 15
No,
minutes.
they're not, in my
Okay.
opinion.
I hear them from one life experience, two experiences from one life experience, and that's fine.
Okay,
It's fine. I
thank
mean,
you.
it's you both times. One time, talking about getting out in the world, and another time being, unsure of who you are. I don't think that, yeah, they're good, Jeannie.
Okay. Yeah, it's because I looked at the flyer and like that he has me next to Mariko, who's dressed in a kimono, and then he has me over here, and I'm thinking, is he trying to say something?
Why
I
don't you
don't.
ask him?
Yeah, I'll ask him. He just sent me the flyer right now.
And what city is it zoomed from?
It'll be here from LA, but he always has people from all over the world. Lots of poets from Africa, and he favors Africa. He's Afro-American. And so
Okay.
this week, I guess it looks like one Japanese from East LA and one from Tokyo.
Is he that poet contributor from B-Zine magazine?
No, his name is James Everett Jones,
Okay.
and he does a spoken word
Yeah. Okay.
life.
I'm just
Mhm.
asking because there's another Zoom called Spoken World.
Oh,
Okay.
he does. Oh, okay. He does that. He does the spoken word. Yeah.
No, I believe you. I'm just saying by coincidence.
There's
also
Spoken World Online, which was
Wow.
when Spoken Word Paris first went on Zoom when the lockdown, and that's been going on for 104 weeks straight now. David Leo Sawa hosts that on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they came on 2 weeks after Angora Zoom came on. Both of us were together early.
Well, he does do something on Tuesday too. Yeah.
All righty. Okay, good. Well, thank you, Jeannie, and all the best when you make your presentation for Spoken World.
Okay, I always get nervous, so this was good practice.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. How about some good practice next from Jack Cooper? Jack, you're back.
I'm back.
You're back, Jack.
Jack.
Let me get back. I'm here. So here's a poem, dissociative as ever, which is at least within the Slavic world. It's called Kavkaz, which refers to the Caucasian region. Mountainous like you, in the sense of something to climb on. I dream of Kavkaz, its hidden valleys, raven skies in the evening while strolling with you. What is it like there? Is it like here? Would it be enough to have you by my side? I think so. I have already felt the clouds. Those times you took my arm, I melted into mist. What I have done ever since. Can I ever know you without losing my grip on the life I have now? To love you, I would have to take off my clothes. That much I would do willingly, but could never not put them back on, nor can afford desire not to do so. So I try to find contentment by baring my heart.
Ooh. Oh. Wow, what resignation. All right. Another one, terms of endearment. Wow, after Angoma did his. Wow, we're hitting on it tonight. Okay, Jackson, number 2, please.
Okay, this one is called Trompe l'oeil. So she comes at last to perch where she always has been, false branch, false bird, breeze at her back, teasing it slightly. No sky, just an inalterable blue, showing endlessly. The quake that finally tames it, closing the eyes.
Finally changed. Okay. All right. Very good. Very, very good. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you all. Thank you for listening.
And again, good luck with your novel, sagging toward Bushwick.
Slouching.
Slouching, I'm sorry. I have it written down correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Slouching toward, okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so let's see who we would be. Where's my list here? Okay. Now, we would like to hear from Dharma Dave right now, followed by Laura. So Laura, if you'll follow Dharma Dave, okay? All right, Dharma, you got the karma. It's all yours.
I'm just sort of deciding as we keep changing what I want to read. But so I'm going to read from the Rorschach page here. Not going to read Mona Lisa selfie. I'll read this other piece. The
Okay.
map is never the territory.
Okay.
On a train to Zurich, following a most eventful first weekend in Paris, the high-speed train rolls along through the French countryside towards the first stop in Dijon. I have never been to Dijon and would love to stop and look around, but that will have to be another time. The decisions as to where to stop on a journey such as this are usually difficult to make. There are so many places to see. This first trip to Europe in 6 years will return me to familiar places and also add a few new ones. I return to Europe with greater knowledge than before, both what I experienced and learned on my previous trips and what I have read and studied since. The preparation, now experience, have clearly reminded me how much has changed just since May 2010, when I last ventured overseas. The biggest, most important change being that my grandfather, Julius, and his wife, Ingrid, are now dead and gone, and not there to greet me this time in Geltendorf. Google Maps, in particular, has become an amazing tool for planning travel and discovering stuff like restaurants and shops. Even before arriving in a town or city, it offers access to websites when available, address information and hours of operation, and aggregated comments from customers and even those pretending to be customers. Useful impressions and trends may be gleaned, but of course, internet comments are best always consumed with several large grains of salt. The Google Maps Street View feature, where available, will allow the user to take a virtual tour. I first used this feature before a trip to Omaha, Nebraska, and it was remarkable how confident I was when actually there after a virtual walk around. They are the most detailed and sophisticated maps in human history up to this point, and are constantly adding more and greater details. And yes, they raise serious and uneasy questions about surveillance and privacy. But the usefulness of the new maps cannot be denied. Also, I have reviewed old historical maps of Paris and other old cities, digitized and housed on Wikimedia and elsewhere. And these help show how the cities evolved and are now surrounded by urban sprawl. However, let us never forget that maps, even the most modern and detailed maps, always remain maps and are never the territory they depict. For that, you must actually go to a place and walk around.
Yes, by all means. Okay.
Dharma,
Dharma,
I
what's,
want to interject that there was a restaurant in New York on Gansevoort Street. It was one of the first in the meatpacking district called Florent. And it was great because it's where all the meat packing was, and he retained those plastic strips when you went into the restaurant, but the walls were entirely done in maps.
Ah,
But the great thing about these maps was that they were all imaginary.
oh, yes. Well, that's a whole other part of the story, imaginary maps. We didn't get into that in this piece. But that sounds like that was a great ambiance in that restaurant.
Oh, it was a great place. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. And actually, I used to wait tables with this guy, with Florent, and he was the best waiter I've ever known, because I would come into work and he would already be there, and he would literally smell every piece of fish that would be on the menu that night. So he'd be able to tell anybody exactly what the freshest one was.
Sounds like it was a good meal too.
Yeah. Oh, it was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So, number 2, just a rambunctious poem, and I shake my fist at tyrants and ridiculous people who are really very small. Because remember that next time somebody mentions the power elite, just think of Angora poets. You know, see, that's your power elite right there. And we're not so secret. We're not so secretly running the earth, you know.
and how we denied Donald Trump a feature
That's
on Angora
right.
Poets. We want to
Kick his
continue
ass
that myth.
out.
We wouldn't let him in.
So here's
Wouldn't take his money.
no, we would not take his money. He didn't have any anyways. But he had already squandered his father's fortune, right? Okay, the funny face gang, screaming, gleaming close at hand, churning, burning in the sand. Forget them, lad. Let them hang. Forget the funny face gang. Growing, sowing across the land, moving, grooving, contraband. Escape your evil ways, she sang. Escape the funny face gang. Listening, glistening to a band, hearing, cheering each demand. Ignore their blasts. Ignore their bang. Ignore the funny face gang. Fighting, fighting, reprimand. Beaming, dreaming, final stand. Deny them all. That last cry rang. Deny the funny face gang.
Okay. All right. We'll take that advice, Dharma.
Yeah, fuck those people.
Boy, we're either deeply in terms of endearment or, all right, or the opposite. Fuck those people. Okay, but there's so many of them. That's the problem. There's so many of them. Okay, thank you, Dharma Dave. And now we will move back to the European continent and ask Laura Gravel where she is this night in the world. Hello.
Hello. Where I have this night. What was that?
Where are you tonight?
Well, I had a friend doing a feature on another Zoom, and I needed to stay for that. And
No,
it
but I
got.
mean, where in the world are you? Where?
Oh, right now.
Yeah, because you could be in Austria, you could be in Turkey.
I'm in central England still.
Okay,
Shepshed.
good enough.
Shepshed.
All right. coming in from Central England. So good to have you, and we welcome you to read a couple pieces here, Laura.
Okay, thank you. I believe I will start with Scrimshaw, which, as you may know, is what sailors used to do, carving on bones of whales and that sort of craft or art. Okay, called Scrimshaw. Start here. Carve the house on my lowest rib. A floater, not attached to sternum or future. Then rib by rib, etch a father, a mother, and 3 kids. Show the detail. My father had a beard and a gift for story. My mother had freckles and a steady job. My sister was quiet and grew quieter. Show the grandparents who wanted to help, shipped hulls filled with gifts, posted kisses and sighs. Show how the nuclear family sit facing away from each other, all 5. Show the war that, oh no, this is about me. Start again here, at the base of my spine. A bone called the sacrum, a place for the sacred, that connects me to ambulatory motion towards a point not yet known to the stars. Incise the scene. Show how the whale breached, how I leaped into his mouth, then traveled the ocean eating marrow and gristle. How the whale beached, but I found new people who spoke new tongues with different teeth. By day, I cooked potatoes and wore a kerchief, told people I was Czech, though they knew I was touched. Late at night, hidden in the toilet, with the compassion and ink of blueberry schnapps, I pushed the pain down into my left tibia, where I scratched the mutiny, the seasons, the sea battle, in the indigo wars that never happened.
Oh, okay. How long were you Czech?
How long was I Czech?
Yeah. In other words, how long did you do that one, that identity?
Up to 6 years.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Okay.
Okay.
Why Czech?
Why Czech? Well, because people thought I was Czech because I was out raking the drying hay in the meadow, and they couldn't imagine that an American would be over there doing that, wearing old clothes.
Okay. All right. Good enough. All right. Can we hear number 2 from you?
Yes, number 2 is going to be dedicated to what's going on lately over there.
Okay.
400 kilometers from the Austrian border east, and this is called I'm on This Earth. I am on this earth, and it is bucking and snorting, and the histories fly like angry hornets, searching for a bare stretch of skin to sting. And the certitudes and platitudes go on shooting guns, go on dropping bombs, and the cries of the hurt circle, and the anger cannot be silenced. I'm on this earth, and lightning flashes across my eyelids, jagged forests of fear. And the certitudes and platitudes walk the street in plain daylight, smug. I am on this earth, and it is rearing and balking. The truce peck fierce, cut tendons, tear flesh. I'm on this earth, and it is sweating and spinning, and the future hurls me towards the cliff's edge, where I will jump to follow the woolly mammoth.
Oh, oh,
That's it.
oh, okay. Wow, that landed. Look out. Okay. Wow. Okay, so thank you, Laura, and we hope to get back with you next week to hear 5 poems for the 2 rounds. But that was nice that we got to hear you in the second round. Thank you. Okay. Um, I was kind of looking here for, give me a second because I'm next. And I piled all these paper poems on top of myself. And so I guess I just sort of like, since we were talking in a humorous way, Angoma, in a humorous way about what we were loosely calling terms of endearment, I wrote this. And I like humor at times. I like humor a lot of times. So while it may not be a stand-up MFA poetics workshop standard, I like humor. It's called I Telephone Baby. She asked, who's on the line? I said, baby, I miss you. She said, I'm doing fine. I said, my heart is breaking. She said, you're breaking me up. If I could just touch you, feel your soft touch. It's all over, Wild Rover. You're a lame duck. Now, baby, I'm hurting. I'm down on my knees. Then call you a doctor. Fix your disease. Baby, I'm lonely. You be the boss. Okay, then get in the wind. You can get lost. Sweetheart, don't do it. Believe me, I need you so. And she snapped back, my wheels are turning. Catch my drift and dig my riff. You gotta go. Those cigarettes on the table, they're not my brand. Slyly, she said, they're Lucky Strikes, what I call my new man. Well, I gave you flowers and chocolates and long hoochie coo. Well, she said, you kept me waiting, and I'm done debating, and I'm so done, so thoroughly through. Darling, I'm desperate. I'm willing to change. Why, I'll even listen. I'll even listen to you. She laughed aloud. Are you listening? She cooed. Pay attention real good. Well, I promise you, baby, I'll do all that I should. She laughed louder when she told me, I got 3 things to tell you. 3 little hints. A, B, C around, sucker. Okay. So
Get in the
wow. And here's when it popped up. I need to finish this. And this is called Street. So it's called Street. And it goes like this. These are all true stories. All the people depicted in this are part of my past life with one who was recently present. They're all hookers. Jody, as a teen, worked in the rub joint. She heard Lou Reed and when she was given head. We met on the south side in an East End dive till closing time. We had each other's back. We had each other's back. Connie was kicking heroin, so we drank magnums of red wine, smoked weed, and got behind the wheel, driving for all time. She told me one night when I said, Connie, give up the dope. Listen, motherfucker, everybody got a Jones. You'll find yours. Okay. Catherine, okay, yeah. Catherine stopped us in our tracks. Her eyes, physique, style of taste, style of dress. We went to the Catholic Have a Heart show for flea markets and to stop at an anti-war protest. A traveling girl, she escorted rich men to chic hotels who would ask her to shit on their face and give them lots of money. She gave big boys, she gave half of it to the peacenik movement. Li Ni is in a room in Paris, Chinatown, and speaks 20 words of French that I don't understand. Mandarin each night, communicating to her family. I console the loneliness, she said, in my off time, missing my 2 children much. I don't say to my husband, you gotta be dirty to do the deed. Through no effort of my own, I was cast in the movie Quiet Days in Clichy. In my one scene, escort a Chinese hooker to the bar. The director said, you know your part without learning lines. Nana, my aunt, as I called her, took me out when she saw the Johns. One in a funeral parlor, had me sit in a chair quietly and not wake the man out, wake the man up as she went with the director behind a curtain. Coming back from the curtain, I said, Aunt Nana, that man doesn't move in the basket. She said, come on, honey, I have enough today to buy you toys and candy. Nana never had any children of her own. Okay, that's my rough draft on hookers that I have been close to and affectionate with and like them as individuals, beginning with Aunt Nana when I was a toddler. As soon as I could walk, Aunt Nana adopted me as her favorite child and took me out when she went to meet Johns. And I had no idea, I was so young, what she was doing. And then all the toys and sweet things I could eat when she picked up her money. So now Connie the junkie who said everybody, listen, motherfucker, everybody got a Jones, would end up shooting up, living with me for a while to try to get clean. She ended up going back on it, shot some dope up, got on her scooter, turned a corner and drove headlong into a truck. And they cleaned her up, but it's fun. Jody, who worked in the rub joint at 19, who was my dead serious girlfriend, would end up going to the rub joint one day, and 10 minutes before she got there, her colleague, her co-worker in the rub joint, opened up a gift box that blew her head off. It was a mafia war between Detroit and New York. So those are some of them. And I left one out who I picked up in a taxi, who would simply have me ride around to different discount stores so she could buy her children clothes and toys. So that's what she did with hers. So anyway, that's a little review on who they were, and I have fond memories of them.
Oh,
Yes.
the lady that the mafia it blew up the owner's head, but not
No,
your,
not the owner. It blew up one of the sex workers' heads.
oh,
This, whoever the creep was, you know, they were never found. It was a war. They were killing. This was a hot war in the 70s, over whether New York would dominate the Midwest or Detroit. And they went to guns. You know, Gambino family against Midwest families. And anyway, it was a co-worker. So the you know, the criminal who did that addressed it to a sex worker and not to the boss. The boss they tried to assassinate, and the bullet went through his Lincoln Continental window and lodged in the metal headrest behind his neck. He said, "I was never so glad to have a Lincoln Continental." And that's how he survived the assassination attempt to get rid of him, because he wouldn't go when the mob said, your mob's got to move out. And then suddenly 3 days later, he's in the press covered with all this Jewish religious gallia saying, "I found God now. I quit the mob. I found God. And I'm never coming out of this apartment again." So that's Jody. On the other hand, we just at 19, we just did, wow. What do you want to do? And she said, maybe I should go to work at another rub joint. And we just, okay, maybe that's safer, Jody. And that's how that worked out. So there you go. And needless to say, when I was with these women, including Connie, the heroin addict, they were all just very ordinary, normal people. You know that? They were completely out of character with being a prostitute, completely out of character. They were just nice, interesting people. And actually very hardworking to pay for their children. Very, very hardworking, because their Johns were keeping most of the money. So anyway, there you go. There you go. Maybe I'll get, I'm going to put that poem out for publication and see which pseudo-feminists, male or female, attack it, for saying nice things about hookers and how it was a valuable experience, even though it was exploitation of them. Curious about that. I'll put it out anyway. Okay, so those are my poems, and oh, the last one, Mimi, the Chinese woman. I met her at a cafe in Paris, and she was trying to order a cup of tea. Okay, and her French, it was so bad that the waiter could not understand what she wanted. So by chance, I heard her saying this, and I just guessed she's Chinese. She wants tea. So we finally got both parties to understand she wanted tea. And so because I was mimicking drinking tea, it made her laugh a lot. Okay, I was doing my little Charlie Chaplin there so that she could understand what I was saying in French. And so we sat at a table and became, we sat all afternoon at a table together. She said, because I laugh, and because I make her laugh. And we got into a thing. So there you go. And she would tell me all about her husband and her 2 children who were broke in China raising goats. Okay, they were broke. That calling didn't make them enough money, and that's why she was in Paris hooking. So that was her. That it's currently her story as well. Okay, I'd like to give these gallant ladies the credit they deserve. Okay, what does anybody else? What about the credit you all deserve? Good to see you again, Laura. And we got through Ukraine and Russia without like shaming anybody or asking for any more bloodshed. That was good. I'm not surprised. What else? Terms of endearment.
Yeah.
From Jack and well, from three people at least.
thank you, Mo. I'm gonna go now. I have to go.
See you
Okay.
later, Jeannie.
Thank
We'll
you
see
very
you,
much.
Jeannie.
Bye, Jeannie.
Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to go too.
See you later,
Angora.
Angoma.
Right, y'all take care.
Yeah, and keep it up.
Bye.
Yeah,
We
man.
know you're not here to tap dance, and we're glad to hear it.
All right,
Indeed.
thanks.
Okay, sign off, Angoma. All right. This is cool. Anyone else wish to sign off? We can say goodbye to.
Yeah, I guess I should sign off. Tony's barking. He wants dinner. So
All right. One advice for Tony is I would put a muzzle on that dog while he's inside the house.
no, I mean he's got toys. He's got bones. He's got
No, but a muzzle means he can't chew your things up
yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
because he's so adorable.
See you and Tony later, Jack.
Yeah.
Okay, Jackson.
Okay.
Go to Great Jackson
Jack.
Heights. All
All right.
right.
Bye,
All
Laura.
the best. Oh, Angora Poets is premieres tomorrow at the Caffé at 8 o'clock.
Where tomorrow night?
Yeah, I sent you an invitation. As I did, I sent
I haven't been paying much attention to
Okay.
Facebook.
So Angora Poets has been, we are now greenlit to do the Caffé on Monday nights.
Okay.
So sign up at 7:30, we start at 8, and I'm inviting a few guest musicians
Excellent.
and one comic as well.
All
So
right.
that's what we're doing in person. All right. Okay, Jackson, go
Okay.
to Jackson Heights.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping my bank card comes in the mail tomorrow.
Well, if you don't have any dough,
Yeah.
come up there. We can buy you around. That ain't no problem.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm having trouble getting even metro tickets.
Wow. Well, come up there. You'll find the money to have a drink on and to go home on. I mean, life is too short.
Yeah.
And we know what happens with anybody, let alone poets. You know, we get in the darndest situations. We know that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night. Bye. Okay, so now we've got Laura and Dharma. Anybody wish to sign off? These are great sign-offs. I like
wanna
your
say
new hair,
thank you,
Laura.
everybody.
It's dark.
Pardon?
Did you change the color of your hair?
Well, I just color it every now and then, and it's a natural dye, and so it washes out and gets a little fainter, and then when I do it again, it's a little darker at first, and then it slowly goes from dark plum to sort of dark red or something.
Well, it looks natural. It looks natural. I want to say that it matches your eyebrows.
Oh, thank you. Yes, my eyebrows are still sort of dark, and my hair used to be dark.
Well, they're matching, so don't go changing. Okay. All right. Well, we hope to see you soon again, Laura.
I hope to be here. I try to get here, Mo, and it's just,
We do
It's
with
always
the
great
best
when
we
you're here,
can.
Laura.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have fixed rules, just Angora poet standards. So, dogs bark, people get phone calls. Benedicta turns on the national news. My dog snores.
Is that what happened to Benedicta? Tonight I thought it would be a little earlier, and then this Ukrainian woman showed up at the last Zoom, and she went on past the normal 5 minutes or whatever. And
Yeah.
you didn't want to turn her off, and she was talking about how she hadn't felt like writing a poem lately, and then she did like she improvised one, and then she read one in Ukrainian, and then she translated it to English.
Okay.
So the improvisation was in English too. Anyway, but it was very moving, and she talked for, I don't know if it was 20 minutes but it kind of put everything a little later than it would have been.
Well, these exceptional circumstances.
Absolutely. No, it was very moving. She was in some sort of refugee place where she couldn't tell where she was, couldn't announce because it could be dangerous for them if people know they're there. And no, it was very, very emotional to see her and hear her talk about it. And I mean, obviously it's emotional even when you don't see her, but it was
Yeah,
incredible, and so that was yeah, it was.
yeah, that's deep stuff.
Yeah, it is, and she's from one of the most bombed cities that they've really gone after.
Did she say, well, okay, all right. And then I included in my two essays this week that for 8 years, Ukrainian military and right-wing forces have been indiscriminately bombing the separatists, but we don't talk about that. So while the poor Ukrainian people are under fear and harm and some deaths, I included that there's an approximate 15,000 dead in the separatist republics because it's happened over 8 years and going on today. So I didn't pick a winner, loser, good guy, bad guy. I just talked about this carnage. And I got responses like from Europeans saying, thanks for balancing this out. The American responses were, fuck them. You know, those in the separatist republics. Let them all, you know, the Americans were, there's only one side. You either root for one side or the other. And it was more like that. Very little historical understanding or present analysis. Just simply, Putin is the root of all evil, just like Saddam Hussein was. And our side is right. And when I mentioned to add to this tragedy, a reported 15,000 have been killed in Gdansk and Luhansk. People wrote back and said, they asked for it. They asked for it. And I just had to leave those threads alone. You know, and I declared at the beginning of the essay that Putin was wrong. But that didn't satisfy the American readers who said, you also criticized what Ukrainians are doing. You don't understand. I went, okay. I don't understand.
I don't know. Americans can really get to you. um, you know, and I've seen other people write this on social media and other places, but you think, okay, well, there was Syria, and people news, but the Americans and the world did not go all out, you know. And then there was, I'm going to lose my mind because it's getting late. There was Syria, there's the Yemen, there's a lot, you know, there's other places. There's all the governments that the U.S. has secretly brought down and murdered these people. I mean, it just goes on, and Americans will just make
ignore it.
You know, they'll just like with the last thing we started with Bush, you know, well, he's going to be toast soon. And you think, how stupid are you? Do you think this is so easy to go out and find these people and it's all going to be over and every war has just been clean as a Band-Aid when you take it off? I just don't get why people don't have a little more sense of.
Well, you know, the broader view is that Americans have become so polarized, you know, like COVID. You were either staunchly for vaccine and really disliked non-vaccinated people, particularly those who, or you were anti-vaxxer and totally thought, oh, the vaccinated people were just sheep following. And there was no, that was it. There was two camps. And so that repeated itself in my little microcosm of essays on the Ukraine war. You don't juxtaposition things and talk about the atrocities and the corruptions on both sides. Now you're either pro-vax or anti-vax. You're either pro-Ukraine or you're undesirable. And like I said, Europeans chimed in, and one Puerto Rican woman, you know, from New York, said, thanks for giving a broader view. But the rest were, like I said, people called me an adolescent giving a kitchen sink version of a war I didn't understand or something. Now I'm laughing about it because I realize that people on Twitter and other places have spent like good portions of their lives fighting over this stuff until like I said, we fought over COVID And somebody said, you realize now they've switched from COVID attention on the news to Ukraine. And maybe next week we'll switch to something new. And I went, so Laura, you're right. You know,
Well, here we switched to Ukraine partly because Boris thought he would get wiped off by the MPs who,
yeah,
every time one of his lies comes up, and usually people forget within a week, and somehow
right.
he manages to talk about some other problem, and this one has really come up. Although I have to say, um, I mean, obviously it is a problem, but Boris loves these because then he's saved. But in the
Yeah,
picture of Boris lately that I've seen, he really looks like this has affected him. And he's such a joker and plays the fool, and just everything has been for his career. But now he's in the hot seat in a hot time, and it's interesting. He suddenly looks older.
yeah. And you made a point 2 weeks ago. They thought he might be stepped down, removed from office any day. And 2 weeks later, he's a major spokesman for the free world. Right? Okay, the same guy. And war does that. An Iranian told me, we so much want to remove the government of Iran. But when America talks about the sanctions, and some Americans were heard advising presidents to bomb us, then we will defend our administration and our country to the last person rather than have you come over and do to us what you did to Iraq, even though we would like. So war galvanizes people. It really does. Biden, he was on the ropes. Everybody was saying he and Kamala Harris were disappointing the electorate. And now Biden is a leading voice. War does that. It galvanizes people for better or for worse.
Yeah.
If you go to dissolve their homeland, or you appear to be saving their homeland in the case of Biden and Johnson, but like I said, the Iranians said we would remove our religion, our theocrats from government in a minute if we could. But if any one of those leaks that came out over the last 12 years, various high administration officials recommending U.S. just go in and take Iran out, we would all show up and fight for Iran to the last, the last person. And so, and the Russians are that way. They don't like Putin. They know he lies. And they accept, of course, they're Russians. They accept a strong man. That's Russian history.
Yeah.
But when they hear that from the other side, that Lindsey Graham says we ought to nuke them now before they nuke us. But we'll fight for Russia behind Putin to the last Russian. After hearing that, so whether I agree or disagree with their politics, that seems to be prevalent in history.
Yeah. Well, the Russians have always been tough. In World War II, my grandfather was a prisoner of war, and he said, the Red Cross packages would arrive, and there weren't enough, so they would share them, and they shared them with the Russians because the Red Cross for the Americans and the Brits sent stuff. But the Russians, if you were captured as a Russian, you were considered dead.
Yeah,
And they sent nothing for their people. And if you came back alive, you were
shot.
you were,
Yeah.
you were dirt.
Well, worse than that, yes, Stalin. That was Stalin's official policy. The only way you lose is if you die in battle. So captured is cowardly. He called it cowardice.
Yeah.
And if you should survive a lost battle, you better have an extraordinary reason, or we shoot you. Simply shoot you.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a story about a ship where they took these prisoners of war and they were going to go back to Russia, and the men went on that ship turning pale because they knew when they got back they would be, considered that they had done something for the other people and they would be killed.
Cowardly.
And this group, they had, yeah, I can't remember where I heard or read this story. It was very sad.
Well, yeah, that was true. That's what Stalin dictated, that you can only not come back if you die in battle.
Yeah.
And your job was not to surrender, not to compromise. And if you do, you're considered a coward. And if you return to us, we shoot you.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, my grandfather said it was very sad, but they shared, with the Russians.
Right.
But anyway, it was yeah, I had a
This one German military officer said in 1940, when they invaded Russia, Stalin hadn't militarized enough. He said, we were fighting Russians who were wearing potato sacks and putting straw on their heads and their feet to keep warm. And Stalin or not, they were willing to fight that way and went through entire battles wearing potato sacks and straw, he said, to keep them warm.
Yeah.
And so in addition to Stalin, how the Russians held out starving at Stalingrad and not surrendering should have proved, like it did to Napoleon, whatever your politics are, don't try to invade Russia.
No.
You can,
No,
because
it's
they didn't give up
stupid,
under the most horrific circumstances.
stupid
And
idea. Well,
yeah,
I was in Austria, so we were hearing these World War II veterans tell stories of World War II, and a number of them had been in Siberia and prison camps for years, and
well,
some of them really tiny people. These men,
mm,
they had grown up in this northern part of Austria that was very poor, and the people didn't have enough food. It was always dark and really depressing. But one little man, he was very cheerful. All of them really, I think that's why they were still alive. Is that but he said, well, he had been there, and they were so impressed, he and the Austrians are tough, they're from this rough climate, but he said he was so impressed by these people and how they worked so hard, and the Russians worked with the prisoner of war, to build these buildings out in Siberia, and they would have to work unless it was below 40 below Celsius.
right.
And there wasn't a lot of food. Anyway, but the Austrian and German vets that I heard that tell these stories were quite impressed by these Russians, because boy, were they tough.
Yeah.
And then at one point, this one little man, his name was, I guess it was Franz Heider. Everybody was Franz on our street if they weren't Hans. Anyway, so Franz Heider, who was from a little farm, he started not being well. And so they sent him back on the train from Siberia towards Austria to go back, because, they kept these prisoners longer than they really should have also. But as he was on the train traveling west, the further he got, the better he felt. Maybe they actually fed him something. And at one point, he was still in the Russian area, and they checked him, and they said, "Oh, you're okay. You're going to go back and work some more. We're not letting you go yet."
Yeah, because Russians,
He had gotten closer to home, and they turned around and they sent him
terrible.
back. So this guy spent, I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years in Siberia
Oh,
working, and he did survive, and he came back and married this woman and had seven children.
good for him.
Yeah, but
My grandfather was in the gulag for a decade.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Who
he was
what force was he fighting for?
well, not sure. He was an artist. He was a painter.
But what European
Romania, he got
nationality was he?
picked up. Well, there was some talk that he might have been undercover for the Americans or what have you, but he was Romanian German, got picked up in 47 by the Soviets. He lost his whole family. My grandmother was American, came here with my mother and my aunt, and he was believed dead. And then so she remarried and, you know, started a new family here and everything. And then 10 years later, they let him out. He survived on account of his art, and he could do like art for the guards, etc. And then they would give him something to eat or what have you. So
Okay.
then he came back and remarried and had a distinguished career. I finally met him when I was 46.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a hardy people. My ex-wife is Russian, and so in the States we were there, and her grandfather Boris was there at 86 years old. And one day in the winter, there was this storm alert and ice alert, and so everything had ice on top of it, and we could not find Boris. So a couple of us went out looking for him, and I found him meandering slowly on the avenue in a short sleeve shirt in sub-freezing weather. And when I went, Boris, Boris, he said, what wrong? Nothing wrong. Leave me alone. I'm out for a walk. And then his son, Ted Levshin, told me, well, you see, he's Russian. We're Russian. This is mild weather for us. And our old people are strong. They don't want to go into home. Yeah, anyway, they're strong. And so Boris is truly not exaggerating. He's not cold, he's not feeble, and he resents anybody thinking he needs help. And sure enough, when I tried to turn him around by the elbow, he gave me that same elbow in the ribs and walked home alone. In that way. So
you learned something.
I
yeah, I
noticed
said
that
a little quickly about that.
Austrians are also pretty tough, although they were impressed by the Russians. And then here, yeah, people just wear t-shirts and shorts, you know, and it's cold.
Yeah, Canadians do that too. Not me.
Well, here in
Man.
California, we do that too.
Yeah, okay, rub it in, rub it in. I'll tell you one good humanity story about this crazy World War II. When the German army, the last army standing, finally did surrender, okay, because Hitler told them the same thing. You're the only way you will die in battle, not surrender. But Germans finally had enough of that and surrendered, you know, when things were terribly bad, you know. So they had captured a German army. It was like a whole frigging division, a couple thousand troops, and they marched them through Stalingrad on their way to POW, and Stalingrad, Russian women from Stalingrad came out and handed the Nazis soup and bread. And the Nazis were killing anything that moved up until the point of their surrender. So go figure. Go figure. You know, I mean,
Well, I had an old cowboy uncle called Uncle Dirt, and he married 3 women. 2 of them, you know, one died of cancer, one shot herself, and then he married one who was wealthy, and they traveled, and they went to Russia. And Uncle Dirt came back, and he was the kind of guy, he could tell great stories, and could, as a youth, you know, eat a couple of steaks and not gain any weight and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but Uncle Dirt said that the Russians are the friendliest people he'd ever met. And, you know, Texans tend to talk to each other and to anybody they see and are very open. And Uncle Dirt was really impressed, and he said that again and again, that the Russian people were the warmest, friendliest people. he'd ever met.
Well, when great to hear that. When they get a new leader who's been born post-Soviet period, a modern person. They may not be perfect, but they're no longer of a KGB Soviet mindset as Vladimir Putin. Like, okay, we live in a world of internet and free speech and protests and gays and lesbians, and the West wants our ass. Okay, but let's just deal with this. Rather, like, I don't know Soviet mentality, somebody like that, and gulags, oh my God, there'll never be another gulag or something, just a modernist, Same way with Joe Biden. He's still in the Cold War period. He just can't go as far as Putin, But Biden and Putin are both relics of the 20th century. Biden is too. Why didn't you listen to Putin? Why did you dismiss him way before the invasion? Because we're at war with Russia. We're back to our historical presence of war with Russia. You fuckers are relics from the 20th century. So hopefully.
That's a good point. They really are relics. And well, I think a lot of the people in the US who are so, pro-Trump and this kind of stuff, they're sort of either relics or nostalgia type people who can't go on, and they're so angry that the world has changed.
Yes. So,
Well, it must be tough to be them. Because the world has changed.
The world has changed no matter what, It's
it ain't going back.
No, it's not going back. But
And that's a good thing, I think. But it is a little turbulent as we transition to a new and better thing. I do think that we do kind of spiral. Things go in cycles, but we do spiral up a bit. So hopefully we make it through this patch.
I hope so. Yeah. It's emotional, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's
very emotional.
Indeed.
I don't know.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna sign off now.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Let's all say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. Good to chat with you.
Everybody, thanks. Everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
And I'll post something on this, David, and look for you. See if we get a recording out of it.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'll post a summary of tonight with a little song, and it won't be a military song for the war. I can tell you that.
I'm sure you'll pick something appropriate. Oh, you always do.
Yeah. Okay.
See you later. See you later, Laura.
Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.